Expectations for games as a service?
No one's going to sing this anthem.
Hello and welcome.
I was trying to time that up perfectly.
I know you were. To Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, your friend, you know him, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you guys lucky episode number 102.
102. I was really thinking about it. Doing this podcast has made my sense of time go by way quicker than it used to.
It's eschewed mine. I still think we saw this podcast last year.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
And it's 2 years ago. Kind of, sort of, technically.
We're getting close. Yeah, we're getting very close. But with that said, we are Triangle Squared, like I said, a PlayStation podcast. So we do cover PlayStation, but we also cover the other brands as they have pertained to the industry and sometimes play them as well. With that, you can find us every Monday at 12 p.m. CST and 10 a.m. PST on YouTube in video format. If you like what we're doing over there, subscribe and hit the bell notification. It'll let you know when these videos go live, which, like we said, every Monday and then every other Friday when, for some reason, Reader Mail doesn't get cursed on us for whatever reason. And then other stuff that we do have planned. We keep saying that, I know, but we're getting very close. We're just dotting a few I's and crossing a few T's. But if you like what we're talking about, let us know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on those same things. One of the things that we're going to be introducing, and we're going to go into that in just a minute. So I'll just save it for then, actually. But if you have thoughts on the topics that we do or any ideas that you want to share about what we talked about, feel free to do so in the comments below. If you want to listen to us in audio format only, you can do so on podcast services, be it iTunes, Google Play Music. Doesn't matter if you're on an Android or an iPhone or a computer, whatever, you can find us. If we are not on a podcast service that you know of, let us know and we will get that fixed. But I think we have that down pat. Let's see. If you want to find us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Triangle SQRD. That is our Twitter handle. You can follow us there where we post our submission post for Reader Mail that we do for our Reader Mail episodes that are every other Friday. We can also do those on our Facebook, which is a Facebook group, Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. If you go over there and ask to be entered in, we will gladly do so. And you can find us on Discord in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment conversations with the rest of the community that's part of that. And that link is in the description below. We have a lot of fun over there, do different stuff. And apparently talk about how I would... You know what? That's not for... Did you see what Hakuto posted?
I have been too busy today.
We'll get into it in a little bit, but or not in the episode. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, you can do all that. And then lastly, if you'd like to support us, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Nartech, which is also down in the link below or in the description below. And you can support us to get early access to some of our content. Definitely as we start to roll out more shows like we are planning very soon. You get early access to Reader Mail right now. Probably not really early access to this. We're working that out because we typically record on a Saturday, but it's still, if you want to support us, you can also get cool custom cases, which we show off on our Twitter. So if you've not seen those, go over there, check them out. They're pretty cool. With that, I think we can go ahead and start the show off as the show demands at this point. Saul, what you been doing this week? What you been playing? Saul is a busy man this week because he's getting married in 2 days.
2 days, yeah. So by the time this airs, I will be...
Congratulations, Saul.
Thank you. I will be in Dallas. Actually, I'm actually probably on the way back home from Dallas by the time this episode airs. Yeah, we leave for Fort Worth, or I get up to get ready to leave for Fort Worth in about 12 hours right now. So if this episode seems to be a little short, we're kind of pressed for time, and that's my fault, so blame all the unprofessionalisms on me. But... I have not played a lot this week. I did get to play maybe 2 nights of Final Fantasy 14 with Sean and Kiki and Vince, and we've been having a blast with that. I was originally going to jump on last night, but then we found ourselves having to pack some stuff up and test some stuff out that we got in. I actually took today off. I was scheduled to work this morning, and I actually found somebody to cover my shift for me because of all the stuff that we had to do. And today is Thursday.
You're lucky for that.
Yeah. We normally record on a Friday or Saturday, but today is a Thursday. Hence, there's not been a drop, but we'll bring that up here in a moment. But, yeah, so a lot of this week has consisted with my laptop or my notebook out, and we've been writing down notes, making plans, trying to take care of all that. So, other than Final Fantasy, I have been playing a ton an absolute ton of Tetris 99. I have probably not played this much Tetris in my whole entire life combined up to this last 3 days.
When everything's calmed down, you should bring your Switch over.
Dude,
next time we go to record and let me play it.
So good.
Mainly just because I'm interested in what the idea is. So do you follow the idea? And I mean, I guess it's the closest way to word it. But I mean, I've seen it described by many as Battle Royale for Tetris. I mean, is that essentially
Pretty
the idea?
much, yeah. Whenever you load in, you have your main Tetris screen, and then on left and right there are 98 other players. And you could actually, they're somewhat minimized, but you can see their Tetris screen as they're playing and how they're building their blocks and stuff.
Okay.
You could go in and target them, and it's essentially done in like terms of you clearing lines of Tetris. So like when you clear 2 lines plus, you send trash over to their side. And what that is that on the left-hand side of your screen, there's this vertical bar that builds up with gray blocks.
Okay.
And if you get enough sent to you without clearing out your lines quick enough, then you'll actually get blocks added to your Tetris line from the very bottom and rise you up.
Ooh.
So you have to clear out the gray blocks too, which it actually works well because everybody knows in Tetris you have to have on the very baseline of the game, or any baseline for that matter, you have to have shapes that go all the way across to both sides and form a complete line, and then you'll eliminate that line. The gray blocks actually act as that. So like if you have gray blocks build you all the way up one side and you have a one gap, you could turn the little blue long boy vertical and shoot them all the way down and clear out 4 blocks, four complete rows of Tetris blocks in that one go. So that like I've been watching Scrubs and playing that. I did start Wargroove. I don't know why I can never remember the name of that game.
Yeah, Wargroove, yeah.
I did start Wargroove. I didn't get far. I did literally the very first mission where you go in for the king at the castle.
So are you at all interested in Wargroove and the aspect that lets you make your own campaigns in it?
No, probably not. I mean, maybe like depending on the character standpoint of it, because
that was just a curiosity. Because
I can like set up a game of like, or a story of like my own made characters, then that would be pretty cool. But I don't know what the possibilities.
Am I right on Wargroove being a turn-based strategy game?
It's Advance Wars.
That's what I was going to say, actually. But
it's Advance Wars mixed with like tactics in a sense, I guess, because it is grid-based, but at the same time, it's the same as Fire Emblem. So this is what's keeping me held till Fire Emblem this coming year, but I literally started that today. So I plan, since we're going to have a hotel room for Saturday and Sunday night, that's going to be my only form of entertainment other than something cool my hotel room is doing. I don't know if this is common or not, but like the TV in our hotel room is a 55-inch 4K TV. I actually am curious to see if it's a TLC or TCL TV because that place is massive, and if that's the same in every room. But my TV comes with Hulu, Amazon Video, and Netflix all built in. Yeah. And it's been a long time since I've stayed at a hotel, but that's pretty
been
cool.
Fairly common in most of the hotels I've been. So when we went to San Francisco, you gave that information on the site, and when you went to the bedroom, they had you as your own guest thing set up that they could do from the top and send out to your room, and it would log you out of your account whenever your checkout time was. So when you went there, I didn't even have to put any of my stuff in. It was already there, and I could just click on any of the services I already use.
And then it just pops up and works that easy?
Yep. And then whenever you check out, it automatically logs your account out, and you get like email notifications saying this is logged out, this is logged out. I thought that was cool, but
I see what you mean now. I see what you mean in Discord.
Good times.
For those that don't join our Discord, go ahead. It's fun.
But yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's been not so long. I had to go to a hotel room whenever Hannah was doing her board test and whatnot. We had to stay in Dallas for her to do her state test for being able to do hair. So it's not been too long.
The crazy thing is this hotel room is almost the size of my apartment.
Yeah, dang, man.
So, like,
I remember you telling me that, but that's just wild.
It costs as much as my rent, if not just a tad bit more than my rent a month for 2 days at this hotel room, and then it's bigger, or it's as big. It's actually, I think it's like 25 feet smaller than my apartment is.
Saul's balling out over here, going all Gucci.
We're gonna have like we have this big old jacuzzi tub. We're gonna throw a bath bomb in, and like because I hate human interaction. Like, me and Annie actually got in an argument the other day about
runs a podcast. I hate human interaction.
I can only take so much because I'm introverted. I have to recharge my batteries. Me and Annie actually got into an argument the other day because it originally, I swear, she wanted a wedding, but now she says she didn't. Or she didn't care if we didn't have one. And I'm like, if you would have said that, I would have remembered because I didn't want one. I didn't care to have one. Now that we're having one, I don't care. But like, if like literally, if I could have just taken 6 days off like I am now, and then just had like relaxation time or whatever, and like spend a weekend in Dallas like we're doing, without worrying about like the catering coming, and then
and all the stress that comes with it.
Like tomorrow or not tomorrow.
And like you said, the social aspect of it, where every one of the people that's there are people that you know and like for the most part, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's just taking them in all at once, as opposed to small pre-planned times. Like I know how you are. Like you're like, well, I'm going to hang out here and I'm going to do it here, and we're going to do it. We're going to plan ahead of time.
I'm going to let you know, because I don't know if I've told you this yet or not, and this does not really apply to anybody. But hey, wedding planning in a way. Like everybody's going to be gone by 7.
Yeah, okay. You told me that.
Yeah, everybody's like, it starts at 4. The actual ceremony is at 4. The reception's going to be like at 4:15, because I don't know, like this is going to be a very quick and easy ceremony, and then the chicken will get there at 4:45 because we're getting Babe's Chicken. Shout out to anybody near Fort Worth. Try it out. It's really, really good. Home cooked like food meals. Really good fried chicken with really good like home style sides, and like pretty much once everybody eats, it's like, all right, guys, we're going to hang out for like 30 or 45 minutes. Get out.
Yeah.
And then they're going to come back and get all the crap from the catering. But because I didn't realize hotels had check-in times. So like you're supposed to meet.
But you don't have to.
Well, I'm glad I called.
Most of them you don't.
Yeah, like they told me that they were like, it wasn't until like I was looking at my booking email, and they were like,
this has become a marriage podcast real quick.
It did. I was like, booking time.
Marriage talks.
4 p.m. And I was like, that's the time of my wedding. So I can't meet that check-in time. So I called them, and they're like, yeah, we can extend it. What did you want us to extend it to? I'm like, 8. I'm like, it takes us 45 minutes to get from my other brother's house in Fort Worth to the hotel we're going to in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And 8 o'clock. And they were like, okay. So I need everybody out and wrapped up by like 7. So then we could leave at like 7:05 with impending traffic to get there.
Yeah.
And then I'll have room service, me and Joe, and then Annie's brother. And Annie, we're going to go hang out in Dallas. If y'all are staying, y'all are welcome to join, but I doubt you're going to want to stay in Dallas and not.
Pretty sure I'm not.
Yeah. I don't even know if Blaze is coming to my wedding. I need to text him.
He is, but he's going to be sleeping while I'm driving.
Okay, so it's you, Hannah, and Blaze, and y'all are just... Okay,
yes, cool. But Jess can't come. Anyway, we'll move on into the rest of the show. Either way, so I'm happy for you, man.
What have you been playing?
But the stress is the bad part of it.
Yeah,
so,
I sat down with you when I got here, and I'm like, I hate to be that guy, but we need to make this short.
And now you've just ranted about your wedding stress.
About it, because I needed to get off my chest, and we're like 45 minutes to 50 minutes out of what I have to be gone by. Look,
we'll get through this. It'll be okay. Anyway, I've been playing mainly Anthem. I went against the grain, as we'll get into in the news anyway. It took the risk, and ended up being that what I thought, it wasn't as big of a deal as everybody was making it out to be. But either way, I was playing it because I was enjoying it, and I just took the risk and said, you know what, you only live once, so you just got to play games that you enjoy, and oh well. So I've been playing that pretty much exclusively. I don't think I tried out Apex finally.
Dude, Apex is good.
It's a well-made game, and I clearly see why people are enjoying it. And I do think of all the ones I've even seen played, like actually sitting, because I've seen people play Fortnite, I've seen people play PUBG, and I've played a little bit of Blackout and seen people play Blackout. But of all of them, even Blackout, and I was actually surprised at that. Of all of them, oddly enough, I find that Apex is either right there directly tied with terms of like obvious quality in terms of the way everything looks, works, and feels with Call of Duty. And that was a surprise to me. If it wasn't, it may even exceed or just go under it a little bit.
I saw you jump into a party with Jonathan, and I was sad because I was like, he set his party limit to 3, and there was somebody offline. I'm assuming it's Dylan.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I didn't know Dylan's the one who set the party up, or Jonathan, I guess was. But Jonathan came over that night and we were playing.
Oh, so, yeah. I was like, dang it. I'm like, they were probably all 3 playing. That's the one crux about that game, is that
who's the 4th friend?
Yeah, it's like the same as Destiny.
Yep. You always have somebody who's left out. Anthem is 4,
yeah,
and I'm happy about that. But we'll go on. One thing that we wanted to do with this episode is, and moving forward, actually, we've done a lot of experimentation on the show about how we want to do different things in terms of setting up for the topic, where we want the topic to be in the show and stuff. And we've decided to mostly keep it the same, though we did take the reader mail out. But one of the side effects of taking the reader mail out is at the point when we had reader mail in, that was essentially the only community interaction during the episode that was there. And now that we've taken that out and had a complete community interaction episode with the reader mails, I wanted to try and find a way to work it back in. And one of the things that we did for a while that I really liked, Saul, and this is going back a bit now, there was like a good 10 to 20 episode run where we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do topic wise, announce it early, and then let everybody kind of get their ideas in, and we would go over what we thought and then kind of work in people's ideas. We ended up going away from that because it made it hard to be topical in ways that we wanted, because sometimes we would announce a topic just to come in and go, but I really want to talk about this because this came up and it's just on my mind and I really want to say something about it. So we decided to go off, change that so we could be a little bit more flexible with what the topics were. But I think in the spirit of keeping up with that, what we're going to do now is we're going to essentially invert that. We're going to go to where at the beginning of every episode, before we go into the drop of the news, we're going to do a short segment that's essentially like last week on Triangle Squared or whatever, where we talk about we kind of go over what we talked about very quickly, and essentially we really look at things that certain community members have said back about their thoughts to the topics at hand. So at this time, it was about the value of PS Plus and ways that the service and the services around that service, so the PlayStation ecosystem as a whole, may be able to build themselves up to be a little more valuable or perceived valuable to the people. And there was a couple that I want to go ahead and shout out, and then we'll move on since we are on a little bit of a time crunch. Mr. No Fate, Sean One Neo, thank you, sir, says PS Plus should offer at least 3 games, one of them being PSVR, which has been a common thing. So I definitely agree with that, and I get that. Just like I've seen a common thing of being 3 games with one of them being a PS2 game. The only reason I think the PS2 game one is unsustainable is because eventually you're going to run out of PS. There's not that many.
Yeah.
So it depends on when the PS5 is coming, how long you want to keep that going. It would be a very quick fix, but it wouldn't be a long sustainable fix, in my opinion. But that's a quick thing. The PSVR one is another thing of, even though PSVR is doing really well and it's, leading of that market, I think the only thing about that one in particular that gets you is that a lot of people just don't, still the vast majority, 1/70th of the, that's probably a little bit ridiculous, but you know what I mean? I would say maybe 10% of the, not even 10%,
I would
actually, because that'd be
millions.
Yeah, that'd be almost 10 million at that point. So either way, my point being is that there's a very small percentage of PS4 owners who have the PSVR. So making the service seem more valuable by adding a game that most of the people who are paying for that service won't even be able to access is a hard pill to swallow, even though I do genuinely like the idea.
It fits into my idea, though. You get 3 games, and you get to pick the third one of a VR game or a normal game.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm curious as to how that would really go on the back end.
It probably wouldn't go well.
Still an interesting idea. He goes further to say, I would make it a tiered service, which is an interesting idea. So online services only, and this is going off of pounds, I guess is what that symbol is. Us Americans or whatever. But he goes off of that and he says 15 PA, so I'm going to assume that's pounds.
It's pounds.
Don't laugh at me.
I'm laughing at you.
You can laugh all you want. Every time I see the 2, I'm like, is it pounds or something else?
The 2?
Well, the other symbol that looks like kind of like the cent symbol, but it's like that. I don't know. Look, I'm going to tell you this much. World government currency or whatever, outside of our government currency, I'm not too fresh on. So I hate to tell you that, guys. Anyway, £15 for online services only. PS Plus with 1 game, $30. PS Plus with 2 games, $40. PS Plus with all 3 games, $50, which would... The tiered
yearly?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the upside to the tiered structure is that if you didn't want the VR game, you could pay a tier down and not get the VR game.
That makes sense.
So that would be reasonable. And then online plus all 3 games and PS Now for £99. Which sounds pretty in line with what we were talking about.
The only
because I do know, even though I don't know the symbol for the pound, I know the pound is, if I'm not mistaken, in a better place in terms of value right now than the US dollar is. So in that mindset, the only thing I could see is how do you determine which game is the one game? Is that, again, you just get to choose if you pay for the tier with 1 game? It comes up and goes, hey, here's the 3 games. Which of them do you want to choose? It's possible. Honestly, it's just how easy would it be to do that? How much more of a pain does it become to do that? Which does lead me into something that World Den said in regards to this over on our Discord community. Sean was on Twitter. Let's see, he was getting to the point where he was talking about, and this is something that we didn't think of in the moment, and I was kind of letting you spearhead it. So to be clear, I don't want to say I'm biased, but I wanted Saul to kind of spearhead that episode because I don't necessarily come from the viewpoint that PS Plus is not a value, but I'm somebody who's not a
value. I'm just saying it could be increased for what it is.
True. And regardless, though, it was just kind of something that you came to, and I'm from a point where I've seen the service grow a lot in odd ways, even though it did end up building in the price of the online services when it moved to PS4. But anyway, I just not felt like it, so I wanted to see what that was. But he brought up a good point, and that's that PS Now. So our idea, and this was kind of an additive, I think you would agree with that the extra part was letting there be either discounts for the other services or bundling all the services together in an optional bundle.
Yeah, PS Now should be cheaper.
Yeah, so, but
I don't know how much.
We talked about that. So looping together PS Now with PS Plus, we said, even doing PS Plus and PS Now together for $120 USD would be pretty interesting, and it would save you a little bit of money while also being more of a reason for you to want to go out and do it, because you'd also be paying for it all at once.
Right.
So one of the things that World then brought up with that is, how sustainable is that on a global scale? But when they've tried doing this thing, and apparently I'm wrong, by the way, I wanted to clear that up. I was really under the impression that the PS4 games, for some reason, I guess my memory has failed me, was different up until about 1.5 to 2 years ago between each region. But that's mostly been that's not been the case majority of this gen. Most of the time, outside of the occasional EU game or the occasional Asian game, they'll switch one of the two games. But for the most part, it's been a unified thing where we get the same games across the board on the PS4. PS3 and Vita titles have changed, just probably due to the fact that the service has gone different routes in the countries. But with that said, he's saying, with them trying to unify it, you'd think that they would want to go to a global solution. And more importantly, his real point was, if you're going to come up with a solution to make it more valuable, that solution would hopefully be a global scale solution. And PS Now is not available in a number of territories and countries. So that side, and View as well, just to throw that in there, are not available in a ton of areas. So, yeah, I mean, that in terms of looking at how that would improve PS Plus's value, I don't think we intended that to be PS Plus's value in improving as much as making you want to go even deeper into PlayStation's entire ecosystem. And me and World then talked about this far more at length, but I just thought that was an interesting thing to bring up because, yeah, I think it would be, in an ideal world, it would be best to have a solution that works on a global scale.
I did forget to say that there should be refunds for PS Plus members to an extent, like one game a month or something. And have time limits on them, like Steam, like an hour, 2 hours.
Well,
because everybody's this ties into Anthem later on, but everybody's pleading for a refund for Anthem digitally. Not saying I would get one because I haven't put a lot of time into it, but I know that there's tons of people that want it, but Sony won't allow it.
Yeah,
and especially people like Kiki who have it on the Kingdom Hearts PS4. And you on the 100.
And that's a pretty, and I would actually say that's the most compelling reason, but I'm sure Sony's argument would be, well, you don't have to play the game until it's fixed. But even then you'd be like, I'm not confident that it'll ever be fixed.
Yeah, it would not only that, but it's like you allowed this game to be released in this state on your console.
Yeah, Yeah,
it's the same with Steam. If games are broken or if anything like that happens in less than 2 hours, you get the refund.
At some level, you have to offer a refund. We saw that happen. So Sony's made rare, exclusions to that, not doing refunds, like with No Man's Sky.
Also, bless you. Do not ever charge back Sony for a game that you bought. You can call your bank and you could say, hey, I paid for this game. I didn't get what I promised. I need to do a chargeback for this amount. It's this number or whatever. Your bank will do that refund. You will be IP banned from PlayStation forever.
I've not seen that, but I would also never do that.
I've seen multiple people saying that. And
pretty interesting.
Kiki was thinking about, he did call and waste time doing that, trying to get a refund normally. And I told him, I'm like, you could do that. I was like, but it's an IP ban. Vince would be banned too.
Oh yeah, that's even worse.
So don't do that. That's if you're just trying to stick it to PlayStation and you're about to jump ship, fine. But
well, going back to your real quick thing about refunds, that would be not making PS Plus a better value. That'd go back to what I was talking about of you've got to draw a clear line between what would be a PS Now feature and what would be a PS Plus feature. So one of them that World then brought up was SharePlay, and I didn't actually think about it, but it makes sense for SharePlay to be a PS Plus feature because it requires internet anyway.
Does anybody even use SharePlay?
I mean, yeah, actually.
A lot of people use SharePlay?
I don't know about a lot, but I mean, people use it, and it's an interesting, unique feature to the console. Fair enough.
Is that an actual PlayStation feature, though?
Yeah.
Or a PlayStation Plus feature, or is it just PlayStation?
Well, apparently it's PS Plus. It is behind that, which makes sense, because if you're playing games online anyway, you have the service.
We used it like what, twice?
Yeah. Okay. And actually, I've used it one time. I was trying to, at least with Richard whenever he joined the party on Destiny. I was just letting him mess around and play the character.
I remember that now. But like, why should that? Like, that's not.
But my point being is
you gain anything for paying.
Yeah, no. But even then, what I was getting at is like Mark Schultz on Twitter today was talking about. Wanted to see trophy tracking and stuff like that. And I was like, again, that's not something I'd want to see behind the paywall of PS Plus. That should just be a PSN feature. That should just be, and actually that would be you could do it as a PSN feature, but that would also just be a console feature. You know what I mean? At that point, it shouldn't be behind a paywall is my general rule is you got to find that level. So like one of the things that World End talked about is also was at one point in time, Sony actually were talking about doing this thing where they were going to try before you buy, and they would leverage their PS Now technology to let you stream the game without having to download anything. You would just no wait time for downloading, no hard drive space taken up. You just stream the game, see if you like it for however long they let you do it, and then you go about your business and buy it if you like it. And that while I do like that feature, I don't necessarily, again, I don't think that should be a feature locked behind specifically PS Plus, though that one is more reasonable than putting something like trophy tracking behind PS Plus. If they were going to do that, it's at least more reasonable.
That's just an implementation that's more of an incentive to use the service, in my opinion.
Exactly, yeah. And it would be you leveraging online on your PlayStation, so it makes sense to an extent.
If Xbox
trophies aren't necessarily inherently linked to the internet. That's why I say that it would be something that wouldn't need to be behind the paywall.
They kind of are, aren't they? Like your trophies don't sync if you're offline.
Yeah, but you don't. You can still earn trophies and never have to get online.
Well, I'm talking about, you said the trophy system.
Well, I mean trophies in general.
Okay.
So trophies in general don't ever have to sync. You can get them without ever going online, whereas you can't download or stream a demo without going online. So in a way, it kind of goes, well, why that would make sense as to why you'd want to tie it into the PS Plus side paywall thing. But I think, again, Sony has been pretty smart about not putting things like Netflix and free-to-play games behind a paywall, so I don't think that they would do that again. I think it's a good look to let things that are
They did do that last year, didn't they?
What?
Netflix.
No.
Who did that?
Xbox still does that.
So you have to have Xbox Live Gold to watch Netflix?
Yes.
That's ridiculous. I think we had it with Netflix.
Well, okay, hold on. I think that's actually been repealed now. But very recently, according to Blake, and I don't have an Xbox, so I don't want to act like I'm speaking from a point of authority. One thing I do know is that you know how Sony makes it to where you can play free-to-play games without it? Xbox does require you to have Xbox Live for Fortnite and the like. So that's one thing to think about.
Yeah, Microsoft will drop Xbox Live as a requirement for Netflix, and this was 5 years ago.
Yeah. I think it was going into the generation as it was, because I do remember on the 360 days, whenever I worked at GameStop, people would have to pay for Xbox Live to watch Netflix. So I apologize for that mix-up. But anyway, I think that's about all that I really wanted to cover on this, but we hope that this encourages y'all to be a little more vocal and sharing y'all's opinions down in the comments below in Discord, whatever way you want to reach out to us and give us your thoughts. I think this is a fun idea, going back and sharing some of the community's thoughts and what we think about them, and sometimes also clearing up when I've misspoken or misremembered or anything like that. So those are good things. But with that said, I guess we're going to go ahead and hop into news and try and make that quick, which I feel a little bit bad saying make everything quick, but you know what?
Yeah, like I hope you guys understand what the circumstances given for
Saul,
this week.
You're getting married. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm getting married. You're lucky you get an episode, you heathens. I love you guys.
Oh, little dictator Saul over here. All right, first thing up, PlayStation's China Hero Project Spring Showcase was this past week and brought with it, and technically this past week, I'm speaking as if this is Monday, new game announcements, though, came from that, and among them are AI Limit by Sense Games. That's an action role-playing game where you control the heroine Arissa. Ran Lost Islands by Jolly Roger Game, a cold weapon, and I don't know what that means. I'm assuming it means non-gun based because it's cold steel, but a cold weapon survival game set in the 17th century, which looks kind of cool, actually. Convaleria by Chengdu Loong Force. Don't ever worry about the way I'm saying these words because I don't know how to. A third-person online shooter game that contains both PvE and PvP elements. And that's interesting. It didn't go into any more. I wonder if this is something that's trying to break into the free-to-play market. I would imagine not. But interesting idea either way. Nightmare, a dark fairy tale horror adventure game that explores self-salvation. Fist, which is F-I-S-T with an acronym. It's a working title. It's a Metroidvania game that sees the player take control of a rabbit that can manipulate a big mech arm that it has on its back that takes place in a diesel punk, which I assume is just like a slightly different aesthetic to steampunk. Does that sound right, Saul? Have you ever heard the word diesel punk?
I've never heard that term before. So,
but I feel like that's what
cyberpunk, steampunk, grunge punk.
Anyway, it's a diesel punk world where he fights against an evil robot army, and the art looks crazy for it, which is pretty funny. Anno, A-N-N-O, Mutationum. This is a 2D pixel art game that also has some 3D hybrid stuff in it. It's an action game that takes place in a dystopian future where you kind of go through and it has concept art. You can see like a destroyed city and one that's like a big, almost like it's funny you mentioned cyberpunk. It's almost like a cyberpunk looking car. You know, the car with the... Anytime
I hear dystopian future, I think of cyberpunk stuff.
And it's like that. And it's the car, what's that?
DeLorean.
DeLorean too, but Cyberpunk had the car that was very reminiscent of the Harrison Ford movie that they just made a new one on, Blade Runner. Thank you.
I don't remember seeing a car like that in Blade Runner.
Am I just mistaken?
I think you are.
I might be somehow conflating two things. I'm not sure. Anyway, the next game up is, I hate this word because I get what they're going for. I hope this is a working title. Evotinction.
Oh, you're talking about the new Blade Runner?
Yes.
That car.
Yes.
That does not look like the car in the other game to me because of the tail lights. The body
fair
style
enough,
similar.
but I just mean the body style.
Yeah, I didn't get that because I'm thinking of the real cool line wraparound tail lights that the Cyberpunk car had.
Sure. Yeah, it's a pretty cool looking car. Anyway, Evotinction by Spikewave Games. It's a third-person stealth game with hacking mechanics set in the near future. And this part's actually cool. I know that's what the name is referring to. It's just awful. It aims to discuss the relationship between evolution and extinction as technology continues to develop, which is a blessing and a threat to human life as we move forward in terms of as we are now, which is pretty interesting because, there's been a lot of people that talk about, I don't know what you want to call it, but essentially extinction by forced evolution into computers. Like some people have talked about where eventually we'll just completely drop our body and take our consciousness if we can ever figure this out and dump it into dump it into a computer and just live in a simulation. Or not even really it's essentially a simulation, but that's interesting. I
don't think we'll ever see that in our lifetime, but who knows?
I don't know that we'd ever want that, but I guess the idea is that if you can make it seamless where you don't even realize you're necessarily in a simulation other than being told it, but like audio and visual wise, it feels like you're completely there. It's pretty interesting though. Game looks all right. Has a real cool dark vibe to it. Anyway though, outside of the new games, we also got a short update from the team working on Lost Soulside, which is that very Final Fantasy / Devil May Cry-esque game that they showed off that looks so beautiful. Go check it out if that sounds interesting at all to you and you've not heard of this. They announced that development is going smoothly, as well as news that Immortal Legacy, the Jade Cipher, terribly long name, announced under the working title Kill X originally, is coming to PSVR on March 20th, and they also showed off a glimpse of the campaign for Hardcore Mecha, which was originally announced under the working title Code Hardcore. So if you kept up with any of the China Project Hero last year, that's what's going on. And actually, I saw earlier from Ryan on Twitter, we're going to use him as a source on this, but I think he's right. Sony announced that they were, or maybe not even announced, but you can infer reasonably that Project X, which is one of the things they showed off in the past China Project Hero, has been canceled, and the developer behind it is apparently no longer around, and their website's been closed off. So part of game making, and definitely this China Project Hero, which are very small developers, getting a kind of a shine, the spotlight for these things. That's pretty interesting. But Saul, you want to know the best news? It's not really the best news, but it's pretty cool.
I saw
already see it.
Gearbox
has updated Borderlands 2 VR to version 2.0, which adds support for the aim controller peripheral, which is what I said they should have done at launch.
I cannot wait for VR games to not have floating hands.
Why? And this goes back to the thing. I still hope that somewhere along the line they're planning to add co-op back into this.
Yeah, it's a big missed opportunity because that game is fun on your own, but it's a blast with friends.
Way more fun with friends. Yeah. And that's my big criticism when they first announced it was that it did not support the aim controller, which is such an obvious.
Yeah, that's a big miss.
What's funny is they showed off the new gameplay, right, with it, and it looks so much smoother. It's like this is what I wanted from the get-go. It makes way more sense in trying to move freely than trying to use move controllers for motion. It's really hard to do. Most people don't really like the teleportation, but for the people that can get over the teleportation, it's an option.
Yeah.
For the people that try and do smooth movement with a VR, it's not a good work. It just doesn't work out at all. Do you need a charger?
Yeah, I do. I apologize for this interruption to Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast where I've been using my laptop too much for this planning that it died on me. The sad thing is it had 25% when we first started.
The upside is that our laptops are the same charger. So.
Yeah, same brand. Same everything.
Anyway, I just love that. To me, I thought it was really cool of them, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and play the game. Though, to be clear, I didn't actually have to buy the game. Sean May, friend of the show, he gave me his copy that he got with his PSVR bundle, and I was originally intending to play it, and I never got around to it, and I was just kind of like, well, I'll play it eventually. Now I have a real reason to play it, and I said I would play this if they added this functionality, so I'm going to. My only hope now is that they realize, for as obvious as it was to have had this game support the aim controller at launch, in my opinion, and for them to at least see that and add it in post, maybe they'll do the same with co-op and add it in post, and we'll be able to play that way. Because I just feel like what better a way than to make and it's unfortunate that it's not at launch, because at launch, when you have all of the support behind it and the marketing weight behind it, and just the general hype behind it, it would have been awesome to say, not only is this a recreation of Borderlands 2, a game you know and love, but it's also supporting the aim controller for fast, smooth, fluid gunplay, and you can play with your friends. Bam. It would have made for a killer announcement. And I already know a lot of people viewed it as a killer announcement for VR, but I just felt like it was lacking obvious steps.
It's weird for me. What is something, if I say Borderlands 2, what is the first thing in that game you think of?
Personally?
Yeah.
I mean, co-op?
No, I'm thinking about like inside the game.
Oh, inside the game? Claptrap.
It's weird. I think of the Minecraft area they had in it.
I don't even remember that.
You don't? There's like...
But, okay, I did not beat Borderlands 2. I beat 1, and I played about half of 2 on PS3, but that was with Jonathan, and I enjoyed the game. I just never got back around to it because I never bought it for myself.
Yeah, they had like skins for it and everything inside the game. And there was like a little area like that had like Minecraft blocks, and it had like creepers in them. That's kind of cool. Roaming around. Yeah, and it's one of those cool things. It's like that.
I assume that made its way back over to VR.
I would hope so, yeah, because it was a really cool area, and that game came out right around the time Minecraft was really, really big, because it came out in 2012.
Minecraft's still really, really big, but when Minecraft was just starting to get really, really big.
It's exploding again, too.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
Exploding.
Creeper jokes.
Good times. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. PS4 has been updated to firmware 6.50, adding in remote play support for iOS devices. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you can load up and do remote play over to that. The ability to choose 720p when broadcasting via Nico Nico, which is apparently only available in certain countries, and the ability to change the button assignment, and this is what I said, to perform enter operations in certain countries and regions. So I don't know if that's talking about flipping over to where which I thought was already in button mapping, where you can make XBO and OBX and all that stuff.
You can in accessibility, right?
So I don't know what this is absolutely talking about and why it would be limited to certain things. So I'm not clear what that is.
Yeah, I thought for sure you could.
Yeah, I'm fairly positive you can. Anyway, the update weighs in at 442 megabytes. So if you want to play online, you got to go do that. Next up, though, Activision has decided to join Bethesda's review policy, at least in the case of Sekiro, as they will not be sending review codes out for the game to journalists or YouTubers. So don't expect any reviews prior to launch unless people did some unsavory stuff to get it. Yep.
I've seen streamers play the game and have like previews for it.
Yeah, previews is a whole other ball game. They've shown the game off.
But like, why do I just like
do a full review?
Yeah, dude.
I don't know why they're choosing to do this. It may be in the same, and I say the same vein, but really different, because Kingdom Hearts did a lot of things specifically to try and keep people from ruining parts of the game, of a long running series. On a game like this, which is the first of its kind, I don't know what they might be trying to do.
It's because at the end of the game, there are great ones, and it turns out this is an actual sequel to Bloodborne.
I mean, but I feel like any reviewer worth their salt.
That's completely made up, by the way.
Yeah, I
thought
know,
that's a spoiler. No, I'm just making
any
sure
reviewer worth their salt would not put something that pivotal and fun and interesting in a review. You know what I mean? But, so I thought it was odd when Bethesda said that they were doing it that way. But the one thing,
see why Bethesda was doing it that way. I actually watched 5 minutes of a 30-minute gameplay segment of that game. Actually, it was 2 hours, not 30 minutes.
Of Sekiro?
Of Sekiro. And I was just like, I just want to see how this runs. I saw that it runs good, looks good, and plays good. I'm done. Like,
yeah,
I was
exactly what you needed to know.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, fair enough. I just think it's an interesting thing to see more people following this suit. I want to say that Bethesda's reasoning behind it was to be more transparent with, I don't know. It sounded like PR mumbo jumbo at the time, and it still does.
I mean, it's proven to be at that point for Bethesda.
I mean,
because of how bad.
But one of the first games they did it with was Doom 2016, which was a hit. So it wasn't like they were trying. A lot of people said they're trying to cover up a bad game, but obviously Doom 2016 is a beloved game.
I think they thought they might have been taking a risk with it, so they were kind of worried. I'm also curious about the DRM they would have had on it, and like for on console or on PCs that could have very well been leaked earlier than anticipated.
See, I don't know. It's full of a lot of questions. I just don't. I've never seen Activision do this before. And I'm curious to see if they're going to keep doing it moving forward.
There's like a rumor going around that speaking of like leaks and stuff, like Jason Schreier is like Shinobi, and then all the pictures that Shinobi's been posted of himself are actually Jason Schreier. I mean, or not of him, but of somebody else, and then it's actually Jason Schreier.
Man, I don't know about any of that. Moving on, though, next thing, Days Gone was recently shown at length to journalists and influencers. I think they get to play 3 hours of the game, revealing a lot of info about the game as well as the full map for the game. Interesting bits of info come in the way of confirming a 30-ish hour game with about 6 hours of cutscenes for the game, as well as changes made throughout development. And this is actually something that originally was brought to my attention by World End, so thank you for that. I went and found it. Very interesting read. So one of the things that I thought was really cool to see was that apparently in early tests for the game from their original plan, they found that players did not like Deacon for about the first 8 hours of the game. His
personality.
So they had to go back and rewrite and re-record some stuff and change some stuff around to make Deacon feel like a more likable character. And in that, one of the things they found made him a more likable character was taking away what was originally intended to be decision-based gameplay. They took away decisions in favor of a stronger linear narrative, which I feel like made it easier for them to tie certain things that would make Deacon more likable while also making for a stronger story. Because one of the things I talk about all the time, and I think it was in that reader mail that didn't go up, where I say so many games, I think actually it was reader mail 3, so it went up, I'm pretty sure, that a ton of these story-based or these decision-based story games, most of them fall flat on trying to really do the one thing that they say, oh, it's an amazing story with a bunch of different branching endings. But it's like I talked about with Metro even last episode. The way Metro did it, and apparently also one thing to clear up, Metro has always had multiple endings, and I was unaware of that.
I did not know that, and I played through all the way through.
Me too. I played through all of them, and I did not know that. But this game made it more obvious to me while still being in the background and not making. I don't even remember,
because I played it on Xbox One all the way through, and then I have it on PS4, but I bought it on sale and played a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But I don't remember there being choices in the game.
Well, there's not choices. It's about dynamic gameplay. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
That's what I was getting about. Metro 3 is, or Exodus, whatever, is just about the way you play the game. So very Dishonored-like, where if you kill more or if you do certain things without you even knowing, you've made a decision in the way that you dynamically and naturally play the game that's going to affect the way the game plays out. Which I like.
Yeah.
I actually like that. But this was more like cut and dry decisions, like go do this or go do this. And that was one of Infamous Second Son's biggest weak points. It made for a story that wasn't able to be attached to the same way that 1 or 2 even did, and definitely 2. 2 was a pinnacle of that. They just didn't capitalize on the choice-based decisions in a way that felt good or fun. It just felt boring and very bland and black and white and no real depth. So I think taking that away was probably a smart decision, and I'm glad to hear that. But there's other things, if you want to look into it, that were changed. It's a pretty interesting little read. Next up, though, Remedy Entertainment's Control, which was revealed at E3 last year, if y'all remember. Or actually, I think it was revealed a little bit before that, but it was shown off at E3
Game
last
Awards. It was shown off at the Game Awards, I thought.
You're right, and then we saw it at E3 in action.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I might be wrong on that, but I thought that's what it was.
Either way, according to Game Informer, it is due out this summer. Nothing more specific than that, which is probably a reasonable thing to assume because Game Informer have announced that the game is going to be their cover story for their April issue. So I'm sure we're going to get an actual release date sometime throughout the April month of coverage, thing that they like to do. So we'll figure that out. Next thing up, Mortal Kombat 11 was revealed to continue with NetherRealm's choice to use their highly modified Unreal Engine 3 as opposed to moving forward into Unreal Engine 4, as they've done with all of their games this gen. So Mortal Kombat 10, also that way. That was what they did, even though it was a cross-gen game with the first Injustice and even into Injustice 2 and now Mortal Kombat 11. But I'll say this. Some people are asking why they won't just move up. Why do it when you have to? Because The one thing I'll say,
can cause some
there's not
major complications.
There is not another fighting game this generation that looks as good as Injustice 2 did. There's not, and
maybe,
now
apparently Dead or Alive, it looks really, really good.
I mean, okay, maybe Dead or Alive. I don't know because I haven't played it, but I would be a little, just knowing the way that thing is, I'm sure it's a good looking game and it probably looks and performs better than Soul Calibur did. But NetherRealm's one of the only people, and partially because their sales are that way, that are doing these really, really high-end AAA fighting games with this kind of production value. Definitely when you're going into cutscene and voiceover and stuff. It's, a lot of games have dropped that, you know. Definitely in the fighting game genre. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But Mortal Kombat 11 looks fantastic. So good on them. And one interesting thing to point out, they're not the only people that have done that this gen, even though it was earlier this gen. Rocksteady did the same thing when they were developing Arkham Knight. They kept their modified version of Unreal 3 instead of switching over to
I thought
Unreal 4.
Arkham Knight was under Unreal 4.
Nope. Unreal 3.
Wow.
Yep. And that was
it's optimized really well.
So many people were surprised because it looked beautiful. You know? I mean, at a time when Unreal Engine 3 was kind of mocked at for always looking too plastic, sheeny, and the same in almost every game. You know, you'd see a character model and go, I know that's an Unreal Engine 3 character model.
Yeah.
There was actually a really interesting thing because Unreal Engine 3 was still the most common one. Do you remember, or did you ever see, or I probably at least talked to you about it, the American McGee's Alice game that was on there?
Yeah, you talked to me about it.
Okay, so Alice Madness Returns was a game last gen that used Unreal Engine 3, and there was a really cool how they made it kind of video, like a little documentary, talking about the making of it, and there were people, like the interviewers asking them about working on Unreal Engine 3 and the hardships of that for a game like what they were doing, and they went into all these things they had to do to make Unreal Engine 3 not look like Unreal Engine 3 as much as possible for that game. So that's pretty interesting.
Wasn't Doom like Doom on Xbox, not Xbox One? Wasn't that Unreal 3?
I don't know. It's always been the ID Tech 3. If you're talking about the original Doom 3,
maybe it's just because of how sheeny they both look.
Yeah,
they both look.
That game had a lot of weird, overly glared lights.
I wonder about Prey on Prey from like 2006 too.
I don't know about that one. That one probably is that's a good question. I don't know. I'm going to move on while you look that up, though. PS4 exclusive Judgment, which is known in Japan as Judgment Eyes, if you've seen. It's set in the world of Yakuza. It gets a Western release date of June 25th, physically, with PS Store users able to pre-order the game for early access on June 21st. So if you want to nab it early, do that. A cool tidbit of information that I saw about this game was that the localization team has 2 English scripts for the game. So this ties into something that I've seen other people talk about, where a lot of the times they'll do the Japanese one. They'll watch the Japanese version of an anime because they like the translation better than what the English version gets, because they changed the English version to make it kind of a maximal, make it sound and feel the most right when a person's actually voice acting it.
Yeah.
Versus it being something that you would never hear somebody say in our language. So I thought that was pretty cool. So what they did is that there's one script for the English audio and one for the Japanese audio that's a more literal and direct translation, as opposed to the script being for the English audio that's rewritten for the purpose of being voice acted and sounding like people would actually say those things in English. And I think that's great. And that's a cool idea. I know a lot of people I've heard say they don't really care for the English voice acting, so it's nice to have both options. If you want it to feel more English true, like things that you would expect to hear somebody say in our society, then you have that option. But if you want to go more towards the true, interpretation of the original, script, that's pretty cool. I like that idea. Couple more things. EA have announced that their annual EA Play event this year, they will not be hosting a conference, instead opting for multiple live streams that will air throughout the first 2 days of the event, with EA saying, quote, bringing you more of what you've told us you want, more gameplay and insights from the teams making the games. This is probably a good move. EA gets made fun of a lot during E3.
Yeah, it does. It wasn't a bad E3 last year either.
It wasn't, but they still got made fun of. Well, you remember
the host was terrible, first of all, and then the whole Star Wars thing was terrible because of the host.
And then the segment where they had I think it was for the football or something, where they came out with the jerseys on. It was just crazy.
Well, it was that specific segment, and then the Command & Conquer at the end.
Oh yeah, the phone one. Yeah, that's what somebody else said. They were like, "We're gonna miss the really poorly chosen phone reveal." Either way, moving along. Interesting report showing where the industry currently is. This is something we normally wouldn't cover on this in terms of, it's not pertinent to PlayStation as a whole, but I guess it's pertinent to the way that the industry might be leading, and it may even back up some of Saul's claims. But Microsoft's Xbox Maverick, that we've seen as a little code name, is reportedly a discless Xbox One called the Xbox One S All Digital Edition, which I'm not going to lie, whoever did the marketing, if this is the name, should have seen through the fact that the most obvious thing is that people are going to look at it and say the Xbox One Sad Edition. It's an obvious joke, but I guess for marketing purposes, staying true to the market in a way where even average consumers can look at the console and say, oh, I completely understand what this is because it's a really basic name, but it's also incredibly long and a mouthful.
Depending on the price, I'm going to pick one up.
I'm really curious. If it's
4K Blu-ray player.
I feel... no.
Oh, no, you're right. It's discless. Never mind.
See?
I'm an idiot.
No, what's funny is I had that slight thing in my head, too. I was like, oh, Xbox One, could be 150 or under. I was like, I'll get it for... No.
Well, see, here's the thing is that I was like, Halo Master Chief Collection. Apparently, on Monday, they're having an announcement, and they actually use the MCC like header as the Xbox announcement thingy. So it's like, that's probably coming to PC.
I wonder. That'd be really cool. Either way, I just thought that was interesting, and that does kind of back up what Saul always says, that we may be actually all digital. Now, there's a big difference between this. This is an all digital console, while Saul's talking about a future that doesn't even use disc anymore. Yeah. But this is one step closer to that. The fact that there's going to be a console release that is all digital. But you know what? Slap back to PlayStation Portable. Do y'all remember the PSP Go?
I was just looking up about that. They're still like $300 for it.
Yeah, they're very expensive. But that
you
just
can't even buy anything on them anymore. You have to buy them on your PS3 and then transfer them over.
You can't. Oh, yeah, because the PS Store shut down for PSP games. Is that right?
So unless you're going to do some possibly illegal stuff on it, then
some magic. Yeah, but that just goes to show it's one of those interesting things where you can see PlayStation has had a very odd, and so has Microsoft in their own thing, but PlayStation has had a really odd go of doing things at the wrong time. Because the PSP Go is something that people would jump all over now if they would still be in the market for something like that. But it's just they were way too early to it, and people hated that console because of that.
Yeah.
Dude. But it's funny because now it's got like a reverence behind it because it's small, light, easy to carry, all digital. It's what people are used to now because gaming and internet and everything supports it way easier than it did back in 2008 or whenever it was that thing came out. Maybe 2009. I can't remember.
2009, I think.
Either way, I just thought it was interesting. Maybe 2010, actually, because I remember the PSP Go coming out. It was before Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep came out because everybody was mad that was not going to be a digital title. So you couldn't play it if you bought a PSP Go.
October 1st, 2009.
2009. There you go. All right. Next
November
couple
1st
things.
In Japan.
We are back to rumor time in the show, which points to another retailer leak of one of PlayStation's big 3 release dates. So this time, a Swedish retailer's page for the game shows that Ghost of Tsushima is apparently set to release August 30th. Before quickly removing the date from the page. Now, I've seen a couple people say that this is likely a placeholder date, but that's unlikely because placeholder dates are typically the last day of the month. In a situation like this, the 30th is not the last day of the month. The 31st is in August, and the 30th is a Friday. I'm not saying that Ghost of Tsushima is coming this year.
That's too close to me.
But that's interesting because that is a date which really could be a release date. You know what I mean? So... And the other thing, that moves into the next one. While we're on the topic of the big 3, Kojima revealed that Death Stranding is, quote, slightly, end quote, behind its original schedule, though stressed that it is not by much, which I'm sure he didn't want to get dogpiled by the people that say he's, he takes forever to make games. But, in that kind of working... Say that, we thought for a little while that we might actually get Death Stranding this year while the other 2 may be next year. Well, what if Death Stranding's thing is pushed that back and that Ghost of Tsushima is going to be ready, but Sony was originally going to slot it for 2020, but now that Death Stranding needs to move back, they're going to pull it forward.
Where would Last of Us still fit in here?
October, possibly.
2 months after Ghost?
Yeah. That would be essentially a good month in between, and I think that would support it. That's what they did early last year when they did God of War and then waited 2 months and then did Detroit and then waited 2 months. And I mean, that's kind of they've been doing that for a little bit. They did that same thing whenever Horizon and everything was coming out.
Horizon, yeah.
Yeah, which Nier was not a real exclusive, but
games.
Still, they're big games, or big enough games. So it's interesting to see that, but I see so many people saying that there's no possible way The Last of Us or Ghost of this year, but I think that one of these big 3 is coming this year. Now it's just a case of which one. And since we've not heard anything about The Last of Us or Ghost being behind schedule, we are only left to imagine it's got to be one of those two, if not both. So we will see. It's just an interesting thing. And then that moves us on to the last news thing, which is going to kind of act as
the main
segue into the main topic. So the big news that's unavoidable this week is that Anthem was a source of controversy, as it was reported that the game was bricking some users' PS4 consoles after crashing. This was found to be untrue, as the issues were fixed by going into safe mode and rebuilding the database. Apparently, the people who were saying this didn't know that, didn't do that, whatever. It was found to be that this has not happened, and BioWare has not been able to find an actual case of this happening that hasn't been able to be fixed. So that part is good.
Yeah.
But it's still a really overall negative look, and it started a lot of negativity around the title, with it being EA as well. And of course, it did a lot of negative PR for BioWare. But they have announced that they've been made aware of the issue. They're working to fix it as soon as possible, and we actually have an end goal for that. So right now it looks like the current patch, the next one up, is aimed for March 12th, which is the day after this video will go live. That patch aims to change a multitude of things in the game, around 300 according to BioWare, as well as solve the crashing issues on the PS4 for good. We will see if that holds true, but I would imagine that they know this is make or break and that they're going to do everything in their power. And as well as it was announced they were working close with Sony to fix this issue. So it's something that I think is going to be fixed in a way that makes sense and not an empty promise. But we'll see. Because, this could easily be a game of negative after everything and end up in the same way that Fallout 76 did, where
Even
it
though
just can't catch a break because it just keeps messing up.
I'd say
it's
they're
possible.
doing a fair job of listening to players and then updating things around what players want.
Very quickly, because I didn't put them all. Of the 300 things, and they didn't even announce them all, there's some that are just completely who knows, but they had a good list of things they were showing off. And I want to list a couple of these out because they actually, as somebody who is playing the game, these sound great. So the other changes are things like miscalculated drop rates. So they're going to work that around to where you'll get the right drops you're supposed to be getting more often. Once you hit level 30, you will no longer get common or uncommon items at all dropped, which is nice. That's something that they should have learned from Destiny as well, where eventually you just don't want to get those items because you're not, it's like you're past those. You don't need to be doing those in endgame. They're doing weapon balancing because they found that the way that the game's scale system works, so that people who are lower level can still play with people who are higher level. Right? I know the one thing is the coolest.
Yeah.
But anyway, they did. Apparently, there was a gun, level 1.
Two things that are in
a level
really cool.
1 Defender rifle in the game was apparently the strongest weapon in the game, even past masterworked guns, because of the way the scaling system worked.
Well, that's broken.
So that was super broken, but they said that's just a small bug, easy to fix, so that's going to be fixed. They're adding a 30-second respawn timer in place of a respawn restricted area to allow you to respawn when your teammates won't revive you. And
that's what I want to hear.
That happens. Me and Vince were playing the other night, so we went into a group of 2 other people, and we were playing, and Vince didn't realize I was down. But the other 2 people obviously kept flying around my body and would not even attempt to try and get me. They were just doing their own thing. And I was like, well, that's unfortunate, but yeah, it is what it is. Let's see. The last thing,
both of them,
and I love this.
The one before and then this one are real big.
Launching missions from anywhere in the fort instead of having to walk to your javelin.
See, one of the biggest reasons
and
I haven't played a lot
that.
of this game was the respawn stuff. The first day I played the game, I did a couple story missions, and I got to Fort Tarsus. And then I was halfway through the mission after that, and I was down. And then somebody was just running past me, like not picking me up, nothing.
Yeah,
and it was really frustrating.
Yeah, that's like that in every game, but moving away from a completely respawn restricted, which is something Destiny did as well. Even essentially respawn restriction just means you can't respawn instantly. You have to wait. I think in Destiny it's also 30 seconds as well, isn't it? Or is it a minute?
I think it's 30 seconds, but I might be wrong. I don't think I've ever paid attention to the time.
Well, normally we're playing Destiny together, so someone's going to res you because you can say, hey, I'm down.
Well, I think it's like a 5-second, like if you're in the darkness zone or whatever, it's a 5-second countdown and then a 30-second, technically, right? Isn't there a countdown before the 30?
Yes, I'm fairly positive.
Or maybe, I'm thinking of a raid.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, you're
so
right.
darkness is 30 seconds, yeah.
Okay, well, that's the end of that, but that kind of moves into the topic that we kind of wanted to talk about. Saul and I mentioned this in the Discord too, we were having a conversation about the game and is it actually good? Are people who are playing it, who are facing the crashing issues, did they deserve it for supporting this type of game? And I think that this is an interesting conversation because one of the things that me and Saul said behind the scenes, not even on the show, when we were going to talk about getting the game is that regardless of what happens with the game, as long as it runs pretty well most of the time and works out, even if the game doesn't have great in-game stuff that will give you a reason to keep playing after beating it one time, which is something that Destiny had problems with early on in the first release of Destiny 1 as well. If that was the problem,
even after the couple launches they had after that with House of Wolves and so were
they were still
bare.
Pretty bare bones and no real reason to stay. You'd hop in, and this happened with Destiny 2. You'd hop in, beat the thing, and then hop back out because there was no reason to keep playing, which I feel like Destiny has welcomely fixed.
Well, Destiny 2 did a really good job too of like having enough content there at launch to keep us playing until the raid, and then the raid kept you busy.
And I don't want to be unfair to Destiny at all, but this ties back into the topic I was even talking about. You know, when you buy a game, so like everybody has their own value set that they look at something, they prescribe their own value to it. So one example of this is me not feeling like I personally was ripped off when I bought the Order 1886. I bring that up on the show all the time, but this is pertinent to this in that expectations going in is kind of what goes off of what your value is. So you have an expectation to value ratio that you kind of naturally end up with in your head before you buy a game, and then whether or not the game hits it is just based off of your experience with the game. So in the case of the Order, I expected 10 to 15 hours of a linear storyline with a good story, solid voice acting, and beautiful visuals, and fun gameplay. And that's exactly what I got. Now, was all of it perfect? No, it wasn't. But I beat it. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I've played it since, and I just really love the game. And I feel like I got more than my $60 worth in terms of I spent more than $60. I bought both collector's editions, and I don't feel like I regret that at all. I love the game. It's one of my favorite series, despite its flaws this generation so far, just because it's very interesting, and I'd like to see it go more, like I speak of all the time. But I feel like that comes into this, right? So when it comes to Destiny, right? You know how I am. Destiny 1 burned me in a bad way, and I feel like it's fair to say that while there are people who are, I'm sure, felt like they got their $60 out of Destiny 1 as well. For me personally, I didn't feel like I did, and there's a reason behind that. Destiny 1's story pacing and everything it did led you to believe the game was going to be a lot longer than it was. It felt like the story and game was just getting started as soon as the credits rolled. Like, I remember when I got to the last mission, and then you're hearing that talk at a tower, and like she's talking to you and she says, "Now go, Guardian," or whatever. I was like, dope, we're getting into the meat of the game now. And then it rolled credits and I was like, what?
Yeah, it was almost like is this a prologue?
It was super unfulfilling. Like there was no story arc, there was no resolution to the multiple weird story arcs they were trying to set up. It was a very odd setup. But again, I think most people agree that they were able to fix that once the Taken King hit, and they moved on from there. So in the realm of Destiny 2, I agree. I do think Destiny 2 still had problems in terms of doing things to where, definitely when they got to DLC, where you are a perfect example of this. The first two DLCs, you went back, played the DLCs, beat them, and then immediately quit playing, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Warmind was a little bit more play than anything else. It was getting Sleeper Simulant, which was what took a while.
Yeah, but essentially you didn't play it didn't bring you back to the game for a month.
No, and that's kind of like what almost the new one did. What was that called? I can't remember now.
The Black Armory?
Yeah, Black Armory is super good with a lot of cool stuff in it, but I got real lucky, and one of the weapons, they have these weekly weapons you want to grind for. Yeah. I got the God roll of one of them, and it's the one I wanted. So I was like, well, now I got the weapon I need. I don't really need to do forges anymore unless I'm helping out Joe. Yeah. And then I was like, well, what is there to do? And then we started going through clan stuff to make enough people to do raids. And then now everybody's on Final Fantasy or coming off of Kingdom Hearts 3. So they haven't jumped back yet. But I will say there's a weekly update for Drifter season that was just this past Tuesday, which had a lot of stuff in it I'm going to go back for. Just not having time for it.
So, but that kind of ties back into what I was saying, though, of like when we went into Destiny 2, even with what I think Destiny 2's problems were, I definitely got my $60 worth, because by the time before I played Forsaken at all, when I got I was looking at my numbers of different things. I played Destiny 2 because you can go. There's an app that lets you see how long you've played Destiny.
Yeah, it's how much have I played or something.
I played Destiny 2. I think 60 to 80, somewhere in that. I think around 70 hours at launch.
I want you to know,
if that's not worth $60, what is? That's what. The thing is, $60 is worth a different thing to everybody, but I obviously got my $60 out of my 11 to 12 hours with the Order 1886, my first night beating it, and my first time beating it, which was me staying up from 5 until 2 in the morning, waking back up the next day, and then getting off that last little chunk of hours. And I really enjoyed it. So, but it comes down to expectations are somewhat set in yourself, but value, I think that people view these games from such a weird value standpoint. And this started because me and Saul talked about, as long as we get 20 to 30 hours out of this game, it's honestly worth it. There's no reason to think it's not worth it. So for us, we determined that ahead of time. We said, we're going to buy the game. This is the value we've given to it, and we're going to play it from here. Now, past that, I've actually been really impressed with Anthem because I've been able to play it as almost a completely single-player game with no problem, and it's been really interesting to me. I played with friends twice now. Played with Vince and for one Stronghold the other night, and I played with Josh Drago, listener to the show as well, for a little bit, and he helped me out just because we were both on. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll co-op with you. And that's cool to me. I feel like I'm getting my value out of the game because it's telling me a good story. It's got good production values. It's actually an interesting, intriguing world, and they're going through and they're doing all the things that Destiny 1 didn't do in terms of the story. Now, it's making mistakes in other areas, like what we saw here. Why can't I launch a mission from anywhere in the fort? Why do I have to be in my Javelin? We talked about, why do I have to hit a load screen to go and change stuff on my Javelin? Why is that not a just instant hit start and that menu comes up immediately? Those are all things that come into it, but I feel like the expectations behind these types of games are so odd because you get the same or more value as you do from other games out of this, but for some reason $60 is still too much.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
To me, it doesn't.
Yeah, to me.
Yeah, you're getting the same amount of time, if not more, than you are from other games, yet the $60 is not enough. And I know that comes from what these games are. It's games as a service.
Yeah.
And it's a very particular kind.
It's all subjective to if you're going to enjoy this kind of service or not.
Yeah.
Because you're paying $60 for what may not be 100% done. I'm not going to say completed because it's pretty completed. It's expanding upon it, but done by the time...
and there are unlucky times. Like I would argue Destiny 1 was not a complete
Fallout
game.
76 is a bad example. Or a good example of a bad game.
Yeah,
too.
so I mean, I think that game could have used more time, definitely. I would even argue at this point that Anthem could have used more time, but playing it, there is an actual story, there's actual gameplay. There's things they should have changed, but I don't even think they were aware of that because this isn't their type of game. And that's unfortunate, and they should have done the research to fix that up. But I do think it comes in, like I'm saying, I don't see personally how you can look at this as long as you're enjoying the game and it's fun to you, which I've seen a lot of people say, well, I like the game, it's fun, and I played it and I beat it and I played it for 30 hours, but it's not worth $60 because this and this. I'm like, but why? You got 30 hours out of it and you just told me you enjoyed every aspect of it. Now, I'm not saying you can't critique and say, well, maybe it should have released at 40. That's a whole other argument. But I don't feel like it. People are acting like these games are literally releasing entirely unfinished. And while I said that's true for some cases, I think that it's very true for Destiny 1's case. It felt unfinished in a way that Anthem doesn't.
It felt too abrupt.
Yeah. Like I said, it felt like once it was starting, it literally felt like the developers got to the point where the story was supposed to start, ran out of time, and had to ship something.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this specific topic of the show, too, is that I haven't had a whole lot of time to play it to form my own subjective opinion around this, because from what I did play from the beta and from this, because I bought it on launch. I played it the day of it coming out. So what I'm interested in is that since you spearheaded this one this week, and I spearheaded the last episode, I don't have any opinions really. I know
understand.
That I'm gonna enjoy it, but I haven't been able to experience enough of it to be hard set on those opinions. So what I'm curious is that if we could take people that we know and we could do key events, and then we could wait 6 months when this game's first expansion comes out or whatever, and everybody's
when
playing
we're
it.
into the game's maturity,
And then we'll do an update, like a part 2. And I'm curious to hear what you people in the comments and on Twitter and on Facebook and, you know, in our Discord, I'm curious as to what you guys think and want to hear from us, because I'm curious to how many people is going to stay on the game. I'm curious if this game is going to exist in a year. I'm curious if, you know, this is going to be one of those style things that everybody was wrong about, very similar to Destiny 1, where everybody craps on it so much. Now it has one of the most highest player bases for online gaming right now. So,
well, and what's funny is, despite the PS4 thing, the news around the game being that the PS4 was literally had the ability to brick and not work at all anymore, I went through even my own thing. When I didn't quite believe that was too true, I was like, that just doesn't sound right. I went through it, though, because I have the 500 million PS4.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, is it worth putting that risk on my console? I said, well, how much fun am I having with the game? Am I having a little bit of fun, but I'm playing it because I don't have anything else to play? No. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm playing it because I want to play it, and I'm enjoying my time with it. So I made the decision, you know what? I'm just going to play it. Everybody else has this opinion on this game, and I'm not saying that those opinions have to be wrong. I mean, the game is not perfect. And yes, there are a lot of things that should have been different. But looking at that, I kind of did this risk versus reward thing in my mind. I was like, but I'm really, like, I literally want to play this game. I'm compelled to play this game.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
I still have, like, I'm not going to say I really, really, really want to play the game, because I would have been playing that instead of Final Fantasy.
Well, and you're also you're not far enough for it to got hooks in you.
Right.
I would even say where you were at in the game, I was still on the fence of like, well, where is this going to be? Am I going to enjoy this?
I haven't hit
I enjoy it now. It's a cool opening.
Yeah.
And
I haven't hit the cycle of the process the game evolves and works, and how
I would say
stay continued in it.
This is where it goes different than Destiny and all those games. Is I think what will really hook you outside of the gameplay, because I think the gameplay is there, but
the gameplay is really good.
You need that one extra thing. Like, well, what else is keeping me outside of just the gameplay, right? And for me, because I'm not playing with friends, it's not, well, it's the gameplay and playing with my friends. For me, it was, and I have no problem. If y'all want to play with me and you see me on, hit me up. I'll play with you. No problem. But as far as, for me, it was, well, once the story started going into it, I'm like, this is kind of an interesting world. I'm interested to see the way they're doing this, and they're padding out this history, and the story has been what's actually interested me. And that's cool. That's good, because you remember a while back whenever they said that they delayed it to make sure it had more of a story-based emphasis, because they saw that's what people thought Destiny lacked in most.
Like
and I agree with that.
Early last year or mid last year.
The way this game goes about telling you its story, and another one of the reasons I thought, why not make the fort the area, right? I figured it out, and this is maybe something that is not a great idea in practice, but it's a cool idea on paper. As you work your way up with the factions, the fort improves. So if you get so far with one group, it's like the fountain won't be dirty anymore. It'll be working, clean, and have fish in it. And then some of the scaffolding will come down. I was like, that's interesting. You know, it's kind of like, it's supposed to be world building. It's like, as you're improving the state of this world and doing these things, you're seeing that around you in this fort. And you're seeing where life thrives, which is the fort here. Where life thrives, you're seeing it get better. It's kind of an interesting idea. And it ties back into where this game kind of has this weird duality of trying to be a single player game in some aspects, but also trying to have this wing over here of you can also completely play it with your friends. It's really, really interesting. And I feel like it's doing more for what Fallout 76 acted like it was trying to do, where it's a Fallout game.
Yeah.
That you can just happen to play with other people. That's what a lot of people wanted out of 76, and that's not what they got. That's what you get here. You have a real story that you can play and experience. And that's
I'll probably
cool.
never pick up 76s because it won't feel like a Fallout game to me.
And I mean, I do want to be clear. Me and Saul have not played 76 at all.
No, I'm going based off of videos, and
we're doing the best we can off of the information we've been given. So, but I mean, I knew that Saul was going to come into this a little bit like that, and this is when it pertains to Anthem. But as it pertains to games as a service in general, I think that me and Saul can clearly see when games as a service fail, which is Destiny 1 time period, and why I was so hesitant to not buy Destiny again until they said this is the last expansion. I said if I spend any more money on this, because it's going to be at least $60 for me to get it again, because I was shifting consoles as well, I said I'm going to buy the last expansion. That way, if I don't like it again, I'm done. I'm out. Or if I do like it, I just have all that wealth of content to play. It was kind of a balance. And then that made me more confident in buying Destiny 2, even though I had reservations about some of the decisions they made. And Destiny 2 went through similar periods where I was like, this DLC is not enough for me. But then Forsaken swung me back over. And that goes so, even on Destiny 2, a game I've put over 100-something hours into now, I've spent I waited until it was on sale for $33 and included Forsaken and the other DLCs.
And you still
so I've spent less than $100 on that game.
Yeah, you still got it for free technically because you use your reward points from your Sony card, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that. So, actually, so I spent $3 of my own money.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's interesting, and value is different on everywhere. But
ROI. I
want to hear more important. I want to hear if you're playing Anthem, what do you think of it? And I mean, I'm not looking for you to reassert what I think. I know that I'm saying clearly I enjoy the game, but I don't think it's perfect, and I don't think it's for everybody. That's another thing. But if you're playing it, how are you enjoying it? If you want to play with me, hit your boy up. We have our gamer tags down in the descriptions of these videos and podcasts. So I will gladly play with you. I'm enjoying the game immensely. I haven't beat it yet, though I'm very close. I know it. But what do you think of Anthem? What do you think of games as a service in general? Do you feel like they are a bad business practice? Do you feel like they're making people accept games that are unfinished or somewhat unfinished states? Give us your thoughts on all those, and then give us your thoughts on what you want to see us talk about when the game is, down the line. I think it'd be interesting. We've done one retrospective episode, and that was about Xbox One X. Scorpio and PS4 Pro, because we kind of did one before the One X came out and what we thought might be happening, and then we wanted to talk about it again once we saw what came out. But that's not something we normally do on the show, so I like the idea, but let us know what you think about all that. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on games and services and everything. And like I said, if you put something on that we find interesting, we'll go over those, and we'll find the ones on Facebook, Patreon, wherever. You respond wherever you see it if you have an opinion, and we'll talk about the beginning of the next episode. I like that segment. I think it's pretty fun. So let us know what you think about all that. And Saul, you want to wish these people goodbye and give them a chance to congratulate you for your wedding.
Well, thank you, everybody who congratulates me, and thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys on episode 103, and we hope to see you guys on Anthem or Final Fantasy or something with us.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.